Thanks for joining us on this special broadcast live from Bengaluru. I'm Padmaja, Joshi, and what a mess the city has been turned into. A combination of greed, corruption and oversight, and unfortunately, but quite predictably at the end of the day, it is the hapless middle class which has to pay the price, which has to bear the brunt, which is why as far as the eye can see down this stretch, these houses which came up apparently right over a stormwater drain have been reduced to rubble. For just a few days, the bulldozers have been stopped because of a holiday. The next 4 days will bring some respite to people who will be able to move out their belongings. But as they narrate to us, it was literally in a matter of minutes that these huge bulldozers rolled in and their life savings were simply taken away from them in the blink of an eye. And one such family who almost suffered such a tragedy was that of Pathankot terror attack martyr Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan. But after India Today reported this travesty that was about to take place, finally the government has seen sense. They've been given a deadline of a few days from now. The family is still trying to figure out what exactly they are going to do. It's a huge India Today impact, and it's the least that this country can do for someone who laid down his life for the country.
Martyr's house saved. Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's family can finally breathe a sigh of relief. After days of speculation on whether their most precious memory of Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan would be razed down, the state government has finally stepped up to help the martyr's family. India Today's non-stop coverage of the Pathankot braveheart's skin facing the bulldozer's wrath has woken up authorities, and their collective outrage has spurred action. The state government spoke to Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's brother and assured him that time will be given to them.
We have made a law now, and we got the president approval also, and we have constituted a special court to try these cases also. In another 2-3 days, we will inaugurate the court also. The court will take up the steps.
The martyr's family has been given time to reconstruct their home, so it no longer encroaches a stormwater drain.
They should have done an alternate idea for this, because if they are digging out 5 meters over here, I don't think so it is required. But now, since that 5 meters would include our portion, we are getting affected to this.
The government's damage control means that this room on your screens, the most precious memory the family has of Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan, is preserved. But this story echoes in the homes of 100 other Bengalurians. For them, it's a temporary respite till the 17th, but with bulldozers parked right outside their home, it's a constant reminder for them of their daunting presence. With Padmaja, Joshi in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
Sites like these are common across Bengaluru, with the municipal corporation literally swooping in and reducing hundreds of houses to rubble. People are now trying to pick up pieces of their life from what remains. Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's family also face the prospect of their house being brought down like this. But finally now, with the government stepping in, there is some respite for them. Because for a hero's family, there couldn't have been a greater insult. First, losing the martyr to terrorist bullets, and now losing the roof over their heads. With video journalist Ankur in Bengaluru, Padmaja Joshi for India Today. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's family might have got respite for a few days, but the sheer injustice of what is being done hasn't escaped anyone. In fact, a few of his family friends are here with us. Manjunath, tell us this. You know, here is a family which is just beginning to grapple with the laws. And while they're saying, yes, if some encroachment has happened, we are going to make amends. But then why wasn't this pointed out to us when 20 years ago we bought this property, built our house, put in our life savings? Who's responsible then for this sheer negligence?
Yeah, I think it's purely negligence by the Karnataka state government, because at least they have to do the prior notice for the people who is lodging their houses and all, because they are the people who is entirely depending their families on their house, so that where they will build up their living and all. So it really affects the sentiments of the people who are staying here from the past 50 to 100 years. So that the government should take, at least government should have intimated them earlier, so that they should have at least they came to know that such a thing will be demolished. So all of a sudden they came and done all the mess over here. So
Sure, tell me, you've been living here for quite a few years. Did you even know that this land that we are standing on right now was a stormwater drain?
No, we didn't know. Not even 12 hours before we got intimation that they are demolishing. They just came, they marked the sudden new marking was come, then immediately tomorrow morning they told 6:30 we are going to demolish. They started demolishing by 8 o'clock in the morning. They're not even prior notice not even before 12 hours before.
And you know, a majority of the people that we've been speaking to, they've been saying, all right, so maybe this time around we may have been spared, but who's to know the sheer arbitrariness of it all? Tomorrow someone might pick up a 100-year-old map and say, now your house is standing on a stormwater drain or on a lake bed. One such person, आपकी दुकान है ये जो तोड़ी गई है यहाँ पे?
ये हमारी दुकान है, चामुंडेश्वरी इलेक्ट्रिकल करके हमारा दुकान है। 1989 में ओपनिंग किया है, 27 ईयर ओल्ड दुकान है। तो टूटा करके कम से कम 25 साल से चुके, ऐसे ही बोल रहे कि तोड़ेगा, क्या तोड़ेगा पता नहीं।
और ये बताइए कि सरकार का कहना है कि गलत काम किया आपने, जो है इंक्रोच किया है, तो टूटना तो था ही, तो आपको पता था कि इस तरीके से गलत काम हो रहा है?
जो इसका मेजरमेंट था वो हमारे को मालूम नहीं था कि भाई मेरा दुकान इतना तक जाएगा करके। तो आके सडनली पूरा चला गया, कम से कम 33 फीट मेरा दुकान लंबा था, तो आके पूरा ही मेरा दुकान टूट गया।
अब क्या होगा, कुछ मुआवजा मिलेगा, कॉम्पनसेशन?
अभी मुआवजा तो अभी पता नहीं क्या देंगे कि नहीं देंगे करके, क्योंकि वो तो ऐसा बर्ताव करते तो हमारे को बोल तो थोड़ा टाइम तो दे सकते हैं ना, टाइम तो बिल्कुल नहीं दे रहे हैं। हम रोते हो तो भी रोते रहना चाहिए, और कितना नुकसान हुआ तो भी उसको कोई चिंता नहीं है, उसको तोड़ना तो तोड़ना बस।
All right, let me in fact put that question across to the representative of the Congress that we have. N.A. Harris is live with us. Also, Kavita Reddy, activist, is with us in our Bangalore studio. But the first question I want to ask is of Rajeev Chandrasekhar, someone who has taken up issues related specifically to Bangalore very, very strongly. Rajeev Chandrasekhar, I want to simply ask you, how can a government be so arbitrary? One day suddenly the Chief Minister snaps his fingers because half of his city is submerged in water. He's made the city into a civic mess, and then he suddenly tells the municipal corporation, bring it down. It's almost like an off with their head kind of a diktat. How can the government do this?
No, I think the government has a lot to answer for. I think the years of corruption and illegalities that have led to this have to be answered before the government starts making victims suffer. I think unfortunately innocent citizens are suffering when the issue should be about corruption within government officials, bureaucrats, politicians and builders. So I think they've got it completely wrong. The sequencing of this has completely been wrong.
So Mr. Harris, essentially everyone has made a quick buck, and it's these hapless people who basically have to see their houses go down in a rubble. Why? Why shouldn't you, your party, your government be compensating these people? You are a bigger criminal than them in this case.
See, somewhere this had to happen. Encroachers have to be removed, cleared. See, of course I do agree, when it was going on, nobody has spoken. This has happened not now, just now you interviewed one man in that electrical shop person. He told, he knew they were demolished, it was going on, they were telling, but still these people are sitting even after they know that it is going to be demolished. And you tell it is we. That is not right, that is not the way to say. See, somewhere something has to happen,
but
start.
Mr. Harris,
now this government,
you
our
heard
chief
only
minister
a part of what this person said, which you found convenient. The fact also is that these people are ones who have been paying their taxes. They say they had their papers in order.
He knew he was doing wrong.
Wasn't there someone who cleared the building plans?
In what he was doing.
Did you not
That's
know?
what he said.
Did you not
That's
know?
what he said. If you say that is not right,
no,
then
did you not know that when you're
about
passing the building plans that it goes against the basic structure of the city, Mr. Harris?
I can't hear you. Hello?
Mr.
You're not,
just a second.
clear.
Let me get a local only to answer you. Manjunath, now Mr. Harris, who is of the Congress, he is saying people over here are now just making excuses. They knew very well. They knew very well what they were getting into, that these are encroachments, and so you have to pay the price now. Did you know that you are indulging in this illegality?
Yeah, actually there is a drain over here. It was like a 100 years old map. At the time there was a small drain over there. Here it was flowing here. That. Suddenly, all of a sudden, the government people came and they appear one day. They did the markings and all, so that intimated people you have to vacate the houses. And all of a sudden, the bulldozers and JCBs came over here and they instantaneously demolished everything. And they didn't.
So you're saying what is your grouse? Your grouse is that you weren't given time. But my question, and the government's valid question also, is why did you encroach at all? Why did these people encroach at all? If you're indulging in encroachment, your houses will be brought down.
Yeah, there is no connectivity as well. We thought the drainage is going to come from BL factory, everything, all of the city. It's not from the city. It is starting from there, and its end is going. It's going to end here. There is no necessity of 33 feet of drainage here. According to the necessity, the 10 feet was enough to this area.
Okay, but Kavita Reddy, that also brings us to the other important point that has been made over the last few days. Based on what is this assessment being done? Does the municipal corporation even have an idea of exactly how the city should be mapped, how the urban infrastructure should be mapped? Because the maps they are using are at least 100 years old.
Padmaja, you've asked a very relevant question. I will separate the emotions and who didn't do what did not happen in the past to what should happen. Now, the maps are accurate. The encroachers very clearly knew that they have encroached. Kolivard committee report very clearly indicates the encroachments of the stormwater drains as well as the lakes and the lake beds. So it is very clear that the encroachments are there, and this is not something new. The assessments of all the stormwater drains has been done almost about a year and a half ago. There is about 850 kilometers of stormwater drains in Bangalore which connects to different lakes. So giving a paint of saying that the maps are old, but the land has not shrunk. Some changes to that has happened as the city grew, but the survey numbers, the PODI numbers remain the same whether you put it in the village map or whether you take it to the CDP. So CDP and the village map are always in sync, and whatever the assessment the BBMP has done is based on these two master maps, which is used for every single administrative purposes, infrastructure purposes across the city. The only difference between the CDP map and a village map is that in a village map there is a smaller structure to it. So my point is very clear that, don't blame on maps, because maps will not shrink the land. I mean, if it is 100 years old, the land wouldn't have shrunk. The changes would have happened, but the lakes, the stormwater drains, the structure of the city would have remained the same.
Because at the end of the day, someone has to be held accountable. Just some 20 officials.
Yeah, Padmaja, one point. This has not happened today. I mean, if you have called Mr. Harris on the show, I would have appreciated if you had called somebody else also on the show, which is the previous governments. So it did not happen in overnight. This BBMP was formed in 2007. So 110 villages came into BBMP and they didn't have a structure at that time. So this has been happening consistently from 2007 onwards. Today, if the government has taken a very
completely
strong
agree with you. No one is above board in this. While it's convenient for the BJP now to accuse Siddaramaiah government, they also should answer for the rot that they encourage. Very quickly, Mr. Harris, the point that you want to make. Very quickly, Mr. Harris.
I agree with you. I agree with you on one particular point, that the government has to look into some kind of a consideration, or probably some kind of a compensation as part of it. But what has to happen, the cleanup drive, which I call it as, instead of demolition drive, I prefer to call it as cleanup drive. This was required because this is to be a lesson which needs to be taught, not for just,
I know that's one clinical way of looking at it. Unfortunately, Kavita, for many people who are losing their houses, it can't be as cut and dry as that. Very quickly, Mr. Harris, the point you want to make.
Yeah, no, I also sympathize with those people who are losing their house and who have been brought down to the streets and who have problems. We do sympathize with them. But then, see, what will happen to Bangalore city is what we have to look at. See, at the end of the day, if we don't clear this, we don't do this. Suppose now you say, okay, when we have started clearing it up, you say what you did yesterday, what you did day before yesterday. That is there. That we will find out later. But let us start with the work now. And let us see things get better. And who didn't do, we have already started taking action on the officials.
You will not find out what you did down the years because it's very convenient. And we've seen this happening in city after city. It's happened in Delhi, it's happened in Mumbai, it's happening in Bengaluru. You allow this rot to flourish. All of you make a quick buck, and then in the end, you demolish the houses of a few hapless people, and you say, "Oh, we've done our bit." Because I want to just stay with me, Mr. Harris. Just stay with. Oh, please. There'll just be some 20 officials you will suspend, and then they'll be on unpaid leave, and they'll come back after 2 months when no one is looking. We know how this functions. Just stay with me because you want to show exactly how this mess was allowed to be created. So just a second, just hold on for a second, because we want to play out for our viewers the real behind-the-scenes story of how Bengaluru was turned into this massive mess. Watch this.
A web of corruption has destroyed Bengaluru city. A deadly concoction of lethargy and nepotism has left the IT city on its knees. India today has gotten down to the very root of this corruption by civic bodies, which runs into hundreds of crores. The Builder-Babu nexus that cost these people their homes. It's not the builder, it's not the seller, but the immediate residents of these homes that are being punished.
You're breaking somebody's house, why don't you arrest them simultaneously? You know who's the builder, you know who's the seller, you know who's the landowner, you know who is the person who sanctioned the plan, the names are there, catch them and arrest them.
Encroachment by builders is one of the main reasons for the near disappearance of wetlands in and around Bengaluru. Lakes have made way for malls, golf courses, luxury villas and whatnot. And while the civic body BBMP is on an overdrive now, one question looms large. Why was permission given by these very officials in the first place?
Mostly a builder official nexus, okay? And that system needs to be broken.
Now India Today has given a voice to Bengalurians to bring the city back to its old glory and wake up the government. Over the last few days, we blew the lid off the clear nexus between Babus and builders that's killed the city's landscape. Our reportage has also prompted 20 officials to be booked for sanctioning contracts that were clearly violating norms.
The officials we have sanctioned the flats, and the officials we have given the occupancy certificates. Besides, the builders are the layout formation, the fellows who have laid the farm layout formations, we have done that. Against them, the people we have built on that. Now the action will be, just now we have registered the cases.
But while the small fish have been booked, the big fish are still off the hook. India Today will continue our relentless coverage till everyone who's responsible for bringing Bengaluru to its knees is put behind bars. Bureau Report, India Today.
In fact, I want to again bring in Rajeev Chandrasekhar. The simple question is, can a citizen not accuse this government and maybe even take this government to court, and successive governments, why just this one, for fraud? Hasn't the citizen been defrauded by a nexus of builders and babus who've taken money, made them believe they've got their papers in order, when that clearly wasn't the case, Rajeev Chandrasekhar?
No, absolutely. The government has a solemn obligation and a solemn responsibility to protecting consumers and citizen interests. That is their job. That is what they're elected to do. They are supposed to enforce the law and crack the whip on corrupt officials, corrupt builders, and not make normal citizens suffer. The government today is showing to everybody's deep dismay and shame that their priorities are to make innocent homeowners suffer when the true criminals are being let off the hook.
So as a citizen, what can I do? Can I actually make someone pay for this? Because I am not happy when just 20 officials are suspended. I want action. I want my hard-earned money to be given back to me.
Not at all. Not at all. I think the citizens need to get organized. Yesterday I have announced, I have requested all those who have been affected by these government actions to contact me. I believe that we must file, in particular, cases against the government for negligence, the cases against the builders and corrupt officials for making sure they are prosecuted. This must be done. If citizens come together, they have a voice, they must demand and assert their rights, and the government cannot be expecting people to just suffer mutely and silently.
Hundreds of Bengalurians have lost their homes, paying the price for deep-rooted nepotism. And while they plead for help, our netas are busy squabbling.
The Chief Minister gave a direction that we have to take action and we have to set right.
There are much larger encroachments by much more bigger sharks who have gone unpunished for a long time.
Well, 20 people's criminal charges have been filed against them.
Nobody should be spared and nobody will be spared.
They've offered no help, no solutions, not even visited these demolition sites.
December last year in Chennai, we don't want that kind of a disaster to happen in Bangalore, so we had to take a strong action.
The demolition drive has become fodder for the opposition to slam the government, questioning if residents were even warned beforehand. But as far as the state government is concerned, they're backing themselves to the hilt, blaming the previous government for the urban mess.
Wherever the encroachment have happened on the stormwater drains, that is Rajkalways and other drains which are connected to the tanks, all those had to be cleared.
These are the very netas who run Bengaluru who are answerable to us. But once again, they're busy bickering while Bengalurians are left to fend for themselves. Bureau Report, India Today.
So just to give our viewers an idea of exactly what trajectory the demolition is going to take, right here is the root of the drain, the stormwater drain which has been encroached upon. The shops there have already been removed, as you can see. So now the bulldozers are going to move in this direction. These are the shops which have already been issued notice. They will have the next few days to basically clear out. As you can see, most of them have tried to move out their belongings. So here you have this entire stretch for another 2.5 kilometers will be demolished. Where does Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's house really come into the picture? The thing is that this drain then is going to turn in this direction. The temple which is in the way will also have to be removed. And right there, the house that you see right there is the one which belongs to Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's family. That house with the black gate, it's in the clear. It's practically in the clear, except that pillar in the back, that white pillar in the back. Ironically, that's the room where Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan himself used to stay. That was his living quarters. That pillar is right in the path of the stormwater drain, and which is why the BBMP has said it will have to be demolished. The family's argument is that if that pillar goes, that entire structure goes. Let's see what they are going to do over the next few days. That's the respite that they have asked for. But Mr. Harris, you said that it's an action that you had to take sooner rather than later. May I please ask, over the years when building plans were being sanctioned, were you not in the know that rules were being violated?
Padmaja, I couldn't hear you. Hello? I couldn't hear you. Now, see, as you rightly
My question to you was very simple. Did you know down the years that rules were being violated?
As per the No, we do agree with you. It was there. And see, the earlier governments, what we are doing today, what should have been done 25 years back, we are doing now. And at least let that happen. Let us see whatever the people are suffering, who are becoming homeless, all these we have to take up this issue separately. But where the clearance is happening, I think that should happen, that should continue to happen. And we should try to accommodate and do some rehabilitation for those who are in the valley area and who have been cheated, who are the middlemen who have cheated these people, and officers involved or politicians, anybody, whoever is involved, let us take on all of them. That is one story of it. But the story is that we have to clear this to see that further future we don't have bigger issues what Chennai and other cities have faced. And plan sanction and the rules what the plan sanction says, if everybody follows, I don't think we would have this problem. Because people have not followed, that is why this problem has come.
Mr. Harris, who are the people who haven't followed? Aren't they your government officials, the urban planning department? Aren't they the ones who didn't follow? As a common citizen, let me tell you, I have the very basic knowledge. When I go to a builder and the builder tells me, sab kuch pass ho gaya, everything is in the clear, I take his word for it because there's a government document he has. But if someone sitting in your government department has indulged in fraud, you can't blame me. I am sorry, but you can't. You can't tell the citizen, you're in the wrong, you are the encroacher. No, I'm not. The builder is the encroacher. And he will get away because he is hand in glove.
Now, Padmaja, now, I can't hear you. Padmaja, now see, one thing is very clear. See, we are not blaming somebody, and here this is all developed by individually. These are not developed by any builder of whatever pictures you are showing. Any builder is involved, we'll take it on him, and the public, whoever has bought from the builder, can also take it on those builder who has developed and given to them. They'll be responsible for whatever they have done. But see, what we have to understand, every citizen of this country can't get away by telling, I did not know the law of this country. Nobody can get away with that. But whoever has cheated cannot get away at all. So we will fight for that any developer, builder or anybody, whoever has done it, we have to take it on them. That doesn't mean that we have to stop this and then do that first. Let us clear it.
Well, in fact, as a matter of fact, we have access to names of the developers and companies who are under the scanner for lake encroachment. I can tell you, India Today has accessed those names, and just to name a few, they are Adarsh Developers, Prestige Group, DS Max, Sobha Developers, Brigade Group, Oberoi Group, RNS Motors, Bagmane Tech Park. All of these names are there, so it's not as if the government does not know. There are builders who are culpable. But let me ask you, Kavita Reddy, very quickly, am I being overtly cynical when I think that just when the dust has settled on this, when this cosmetic surgery would have been done, things will go back to like what they were before? And the same kind of papers will be cleared, construction will be allowed, and 20 years later, there'll be another set of people who will be crying.
Padmaja, I hope not. What we've also requested the BBMP commissioner very specifically is to integrate the revenue department documents with BDA and BBMP. If all the three documents get synchronized, all the three maps get synchronized, then it will become much easier for anybody to understand where the stormwater drains are and where the actual property lies. The other thing is also, I think, one important thing which is outcome of is that there has to be a certain checklist which has to be used by the buyers when they are buying any kind of a property. I do believe that a lot of them are very innocent, but many of them would have bought it just boldly enough to say nothing is going to happen. I think that set of people are also there. So it is just not one side, it's not black and white. There's a lot of grey area in this. And as Mr. Harris said, there are a lot of individuals who have bought this land, and there are also developers. You rightly pointed out there are a lot of big developers. In fact, we ourselves are fighting a case in our locality where a big builder has encroached the public road. Forget about the lake and the stormwater drain. A public road has been encroached, and they're trying to prove it's their personal property. So it has gone to court, and it's been 5 years now. We're fighting it out in the court.
Absolutely.
And they've been dragging the case for a very long time. So you have those kind of cases also.
In fact, the irony doesn't end there, because we also know that there are. In fact, the most ironical, you're absolutely right, Kavita. And in fact, we've also accessed areas where the BDA itself is the encroacher. The lake has been encroached upon by the BDA. Could it get more ironic than that? Who's going to penalize them? So Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's family has got respite for a few days. They're still waiting to figure out what exactly their future plans will be. But others weren't as lucky. They lost their houses, and they have no option now but to be completely stoic about it, because as they told us, they have a job to do. They have to get on with their lives. They can't even afford to sit and mourn the loss of their life savings. So Kavita Reddy, I want to ask you, what should someone look out for? Because the basic question a lot of people ask us, how do I even know whether what I am buying is legal or not if I'm told by the builder or the government official that here are the papers? How should I protect myself in the future?
Yeah, Padmaja, first thing first, I think you have asked a very important question. The first thing is that anybody who is going to buy a property, especially a land per se, has to go to a lawyer, a property lawyer who will tell you what are the records to look at. The first important document is a village map which will have the survey numbers to it, and it will clearly indicate what part of the land belongs to what. The second important document is to identify whether there are things like A kharab land and B kharab land in their property. And the third thing is to identify whether this has, if all the mother deed, the documentation has been done for this particular property. So there are about 10 to 12 items. These are not big things. These are very basic stuff which is available, which is easily sourceable. You can use RTI to get it. So these are not difficult things. But yes, you need to put in a little effort. Maybe spend 10 or 15,000.
And please, for heaven's sake, don't ever believe anyone who says that, we will get it fixed because we have a source in the government.
Absolutely.
Mr. Harris,
absolutely.
I want to ask you, for people who have lost their houses, are you even contemplating some kind of a compensation or an alternative? Because these are people with regular jobs, they need to get on with their lives, but will they be in any way compensated?
You're asking me? Padmaja, I think...
No, Mr. Harris, the question was for you. What is the action we can expect, the concrete action we can expect, and the compensation, if any?
Question is to whom?
It's to you, Mr. Harris.
Didn't hear you. Question is to whom? No, I do agree with you.
Mr. Harris, my question was to you. What is the action you're...
with all those residents whose houses are demolished? No, I agree. We will have to now, I think there should be an inquiry conducted on how these people got to build there and who was responsible, where the documentation fraud has happened, and I think those people should be compensated. I don't know how much the government can do it, but then somewhere they should be compensated, because all are very poor people whose houses are being demolished. I see many of them, wherein we are also building a lot of houses for the poor people. Government has a program for that. I think at least they should be accommodated somewhere in any other projects of the government where they can be given houses, because we don't believe the people should be removed from their house and put on the roads. So I do agree with you that we need to compensate somewhere to these people who have lost their houses. So I would also appreciate the government also about this situation, and I'm sure the Chief Minister will be looking at some alternatives to be done.
We'll certainly be watching very closely exactly who are the people who are acted against, because I can tell you we know of one 5-star hotel and a mall who are standing on illegal land, but yet no action has been taken against them. With that, I thank everyone who's joined us on this special broadcast. At 7 again, we're going to be broadcasting live from Bengaluru, and we just leave you with a thought. The irony is that today is a very, very auspicious day in this city. It's the worship of Goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, and it's on this day that most people are actually sifting through the rubble of their houses. That's the worst thing that can happen to anyone. Thanks very much for having tuned in. A quick break. The news continues on the other side.